Before we get into the stories, I would like to let you all know that I'm taking story submissions to narrate. I will credit you in the description of the video unless you ask me not to, so if you have an experience or story in mind that you would like me to read, then you can email me at feedingonfear@gmail.com, and I will be sure to include it in my videos. Thank you so much for watching, and enjoy the stories. You know those eerie feelings you get when you're playing a multiplayer game and there's no one on the server except for you? For instance, boot up Minecraft right now and scope around for some deserted server that's running, but no one's on. Feels pretty strange, doesn't it? Well, this is what my hobby was, going around to these barely running games and seeing what people had left behind. Not just Minecraft either. Counter-Strike, Team Fortress, World of Warcraft. I used all of these games to explore my special servers every day. I logged down what was on them. Buildings, maps, announcements, and then my friend would come along and wipe/build on what I logged in. I would get paid about $50 for every server I cleared, depending on the size. Anyways, I'm sitting there sipping on a Coke when my unnamed friend, due to security reasons, rings me up over Steam and says there's this really big indie game map that was just abandoned and he wanted me to check it out. He also mentioned that the map was larger than normal, so he'd pay me around $100, so I accepted and went to download the client. It was some old website. The design was pretty poor and it didn't look very popular, so I speculated that he just wanted me to see if it was working. So I created an account and booted up the game. It looked normal enough, sorta like Second Life. That game where you play as yourself and run around and buy stuff. So I started at the server maintenance screen and went over some of the hosting stats and found that the server was being run from a single tower that had a proxy. I couldn't list the location to get a proper ping to report to my friend, but since he was probably going to delete it, I guessed I would just make it up. I scanned over the other active servers and it seemed like the only active one was this one. He was probably going to wipe it and demolish the company project, so I guess that's why I'm getting such a big bonus for it. I logged into the server and the loading screen came up. Hints, a bar, and some pictures of people playing. The usual. After the screen had completed, my avatar was dropped into a little forest, what I assumed would be outside of any main city or town. So I walked forward, hoping that some sort of tutorial would guide me around, but nothing happened. The graphics were quite advanced for a game its age. The forest spanned for ages, and the trees were like that of Elwyn Forest of World of Warcraft. I told all of this to my friend as we kept the channel open for fast information. After walking around the forest for 20 minutes, I came to a bigger than normal tree. It had this big door on the front of it. It looked as if it had been carved into the wood by hand, kind of like the ones of Nightmare Before Christmas. Anyways, the cursor came up with an interaction symbol, and then the screen went black and my voice channel cut out. There was no loading screen, only the sounds of the poorly looped 8-bit music that was on the last loading screen. So I waited and waited until finally the game comes back in with my voice channel. The only thing in the entire tree is a big mirror, totally separating the middle of the tree from the other half. My character then walks up to the tree without my control and puts his hand toward the reflection. After this, I was suddenly brought to my desktop. Along with the icon of the game, all the files are missing too. The HTTP has also vanished along with it. I ask my friend if he cut the server and he replies an innocent no. Anyways, he transfers the money to my PayPal and logs out. So I go to sleep that night thinking about what I'll spend my $100 on as I drift into sleep. I wake up about 6 times that night, always seeing that stupid tree. It's not even scary, it's just annoying. It's a vividly recreated mirror, just like the one out of the game, and I keep touching it. I get up at around 6 a.m. after being unable to sleep and decide to hop on the computer for the weekend and rummage about on Steam for some good deals. I get about halfway through watching some Saints Row trailer when I get invited to play some Counter-Strike. The name was added to my friends, but I don't recognize him at all. The name was actually resembling mine. It keeps flashing, and after a couple of minutes I decided to oblige. The server's pretty normal, just a dust 2 with no announcements, and him and myself on opposite teams. It must be a peer-to-peer because the server name is exactly the same as mine. I bet it's my friend pulling a prank. After I go through the options and get my game all set, I decided to buy an op to shoot this guy with. But whenever I press the key I have assigned to bind, the game freezes and goes back to normal after about 2 seconds. So I decide it's just some buggy server coding and continue with the game with the trusty old Glock. After I run out of spawn, I can hear a fair laugh or giggle or something from the other side of the map. I brush it off, a script to plug in, and keep running around. I look for this guy for about 10 minutes when I'm about to leave, but I see him in the corner of my eye running under the walkway. I follow him under, but when I re-emerge on the other side, I see not the other side of the map, but the inside of a big tree and the large mirror stretched across my screen. The reflection is not of the terrorist I'm playing as, but of me sitting there at my keyboard. I throw my headset off and check my webcam, but nothing's turned on. What the hell is this? In my reflection, my hand extends from my mouse and begins cutting into its arm with its nails, smiling the entire time as it does so. The cuts start appearing on my arms as he laughs and does so, and I scream and turn off the computer before fading to black. My face is flashed on the screen, distorted and almost rotted. I wait about 4 days before turning the computer back on. I need to do this, I tell myself, for work. I turn the computer back on and start Word. Program immediately shuts down and begins booting up Battlefield 3. What the hell is this? I wasn't even using Battlelog. This is too suspicious. I'm about to turn the computer off in fear of seeing my doppelganger start going all cutty again. But I see I was invited by my old friend. The server is pretty normal, just a squad DM on Caspian border. I spawn and select my weapons. After this, I alt-tab and open a chat with my friend, but there's only static. Hello, I say into my microphone, but only static's returned. Come on, dude, let's not do this now, I say in hopes of getting a response. Whatever, let's just play. I run around the map looking for my friend amidst all the bushes and trees lining around the gas station. I see a model run behind the building. It didn't look like the silhouette of a normal model in-game. I remembered Dust 2 and decide to turn the computer off. I reach up to the power and press in once. I look back down to my screen and all I can see is that all the trees now bear the same door. Oh shit, as I say as I struggle to look away. The power wouldn't turn off as my character walks unattended towards the largest of the trees. The door opens and guess who's sitting against the mirror, sitting exactly like me. My doppelganger stares blankly into the screen. He's changed since the last time I saw him. His eyes are sunken in and his bones are clearly visible over the fleshy creases in his face and skin. He grimaces and starts jabbing himself with a piece of wood. I scream as his actions replicate on my body. I reach for the cord as pieces of wood and splinters start cutting into my chest. I finally grasp the cord and yank it out. The laughing and screaming die down on both ends of the voice channel. I'm rushed to the hospital and receive around 60 stitches for my cuts and gashes. And I sell my computer when I get home. A couple of days pass and things are looking down for me. I lost my job after having too many days off. Still thinking about the tree and my doppelganger. I begin walking around the interior of my house, thinking about what I can do. I think about mirrors, I think about myself, insanity, and how I can overcome this, and that it clicks. The mirrors and trees, I need to get back to that game. Knowing the HTTP is down, I realize I need to host it. I buy a cheap Dell computer from my local store and set up a peer-to-peer host in the hopes I can just get me and this bastard in one room again. The server pings online as I enter what I remembered to be the host, ashes and strings of code from any file residue I can find. After working for about 3 days, I finally get the server back up. The web address works, and I brace myself as I click to log in. The page is different. It had pictures of me losing my job, as well as my loved ones, and crying people being killed. Cannibalism, decapitation, you name it, it all lined my screen as the game played that same weird howling noise, as when I first met this doppelganger. I log in, the loading page is going black once more as I'm dropped into the forest. Again, it's different. Gar and blood splatter the entire landscape, bodies hang from trees. They follow me with their black eyes as my character progresses through the landscape. In real life, I'm extremely unnerved. The barriers of the game and reality slowly seem to be drifting as I advance deeper and deeper into the forest. I'm walking on my own now, no keyboard, no mouse. I'm doing this in real life. I continue falling over corpses as I keep going. I have to do this. I keep telling myself I have to, until I finally come to the tree. I brace myself and walk towards the main door, screaming still ringing in my ears. It slows down to mere laughs or giggles as I walk towards the mirror. I see myself, covered in blood, stretched features, black eyes looking at me. It starts rasping and crawling towards me. It breaks the mirror. Now was the time. I pull out my pocket mirror with all my strength and show it to this doppelganger. I heard a massive burst of screaming echoes, making my eardrums bleed as I held the mirror with all of my willpower. I suddenly awaken in my room, on the floor, covered in blood, with the mirror laying to my left. I start to calm down. It seems like it's over. I got up and collected myself after a quick shower and a glass of water. I got in my car and drove as fast as I could to the nearest bridge over water. I got the mirror and threw it down into the water and began to walk home. Safe, and a hero after defeating this creature. That's why I'm writing this now. To save you the trouble of all of this, be cautious whenever you join any type of empty or abandoned server. You might just start to hear the laughs and giggles echo towards you. And if you encounter your own doppelganger, I fear for the worst. A couple of months ago, the police dredged lakes around the country and found mirrors exactly like the one I used to defeat him my first time. And I have a hunch that he won't make the same mistake again.